What a huge week it has been for artificial intelligence. This week we saw the birth of new AI models such as Grok from Elon Musk's XAI. OpenAI held their first ever Dev Day, which came with a slew of announcements that we'll talk about. Github Universe was this week, which announced bringing AI to nearly every aspect of GitHub. And Google Deepmind tries to capture a definition for AGI because apparently we'll know it when we see it is not technical enough. And Maggie's back this week. We're going to chat with her and get her spicy take on what's going on in the world of AI this week. Hi, Maggie.
Hey there. Great to be back on the Great Indoors.
We will explore all of this and more on today's The Great Indoors. So today I want to start off talking about a paper that was released by the Google Deepmind team called Levels of AGI. In this paper, they present a framework and an ontology by which we can better understand what AGI is, how it can be viewed as varying levels of capability, and not just capability, but performance. The paper presents what it calls levels of generality, capability, and performance, breaking down each of the levels that AGI capability will graduate to, and where the models of today fit into that framework. Now, I was really excited when they released this paper, in part because we were talking about this very thing last week. I was lamenting that AGI seemed like it wasn't a very good term anymore for pinpointing artificial intelligence when it hits a certain level of generality. Artificial narrow intelligence is much more easy to define. It's an AI that's really good at one thing, right? I'll beat you at chess, but don't ask me to do your taxes. But an artificial general intelligence is much harder to think about. And there are many stops on the road to getting something that is purely generally good at everything. So I thought this was actually a really nice framework. But also because I went to school with one of the authors and I was really excited to see her name there. I'll also point out Shane Legg was one of the authors of this, and we talked about him on the show last week, and he's the one who gave us the really great definition in the first place, so it's no surprise that he's on this paper as well. So this is the table in which they present the levels of AGI, and maybe I can throw up something that's much easier to read over on this side of the screen. But at the bottom, we have obviously 0, no levels of AGI. And then we have level 1, emerging AGI. And I was really surprised to see that they put all of the frontier models on level 1 as emerging AGI. But then they went on to explain that while a lot of these models have capabilities that extend to competent or expert or maybe even virtuoso AGI, only narrow parts of those AIs actually get to that level of capability. Broadly speaking, models of today are still bogged down by hallucinations and similar problems that prevent them from getting to a truly general capability. So when I read through their reasoning, it made a little bit more sense. And at the very bottom, at level 5, is where they have superhuman level AGI. Now, of course, we don't have anything that achieves that, but in the category of narrow AI, we have things like AlphaFold, AlphaZero, which are Google products, I'll point out. Part of me wonders that when you have one of the frontier companies building AGI presenting the rules by which we measure AGI, maybe they have something coming out in the near future that is going to graduate to level 2, maybe even level 3. And I would be more than happy to be the exclusive that breaks that story. Can you imagine what a shock that would be to my 100 viewers? I know what Google's doing next. In addition to the levels of AGI, they also presented a table that broke down levels of autonomy that AI could achieve. Anywhere from no autonomy at all, to being used as a tool, to humans being a participant, a collaboration between human and AI, but that collaboration being much more human-sided on the lower levels and much more AI-sided on the upper levels, until at the top level, AI is fully autonomous and doing as AI does. While it is not a perfect definition, I think it is the best and most well-organized definition I've seen so far of AGI. I think it's going to be very useful, and I think it will help frame nicely how models perform as they get more and more capable. It's an incredibly interesting paper. I really recommend you go and read it. Over on AI Explained, he does a really great job of breaking down the paper, giving his thoughts on it. In fact, all of his analysis on artificial intelligence and things that are happening are just top-notch. If you are not watching this, go watch it. Seriously, why are you watching me? Stop, go watch him. Next up, OpenAI had their Dev Day on Monday, and that was super exciting because as a developer, I was really anxious to see what they had next. And if I haven't talked about what I've developed for OpenAI and ChatGPT before, I think there's a link here-ish that you can click with a little example of what I've done. But also, on the tail of this announcement, I did some even more development, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Did some even more development? What am I talking about? Of course, the big announcement was a new model called GPT-4 Turbo, which comes with a huge list of improvements. First of all, the context length of GPT-4 is increasing by a huge amount, 128,000 tokens of text. That's like 300 pages of a standard book, 8 times more than what they had before. Another way to look at context, it's almost like RAM inside of your computer. It is the absolute fastest and most immediate memory for language models. Everything that exists within the span of that context window, including the entire conversation that you've just had, is everything that it remembers. Now, the training that models undergo is much more like the hard drive, right? That's everything that was introduced about the world. It understands that. It can go and fetch that. The only thing that's missing for language models is that memory that's in the middle that can bridge the gap between the immediate short-term memory and that much more long-term memory. There's now more control, including something called JSON mode, which will allow the model to respond only in JSON. This is really important for developers and very useful. Better function calling, reproducible outputs, and log probabilities, which are all things that developers would care about and everybody else not so much. But it does have better world knowledge and retrieval and an updated cutoff date. So now the new cutoff is April of 2023. It actually knows about itself, as AI Explained pointed out. New modalities in the API, which allows developers to use the image recognition capabilities of GPT-4 in our programs. Not only that, but text-to-speech. There's an update to Whisper, which is the API for speech-to-text. Fine-tune customization has been expanded to the 16K version of the model. And now they have a GPT fine-tuning access program, which is available to companies that want to fine-tune on their data, but need a little help doing that. Lower prices, higher rate limits, all things you want to hear about if you're a developer. The pricing has gone way down, which I'm super happy about. GPT-4 Turbo is now 3 times less expensive for prompts and 2 times less expensive for completions. That's huge. Sam Altman, who made the keynote for OpenAI Dev Day, stated that pricing was the thing they wanted to work on first, but improvements to speed would come next. Oh, and GPT-3.5 will also be cheaper. Higher rate limits, so you're not hitting your rate limit so fast, and something called Copyright Shield. And they've committed themselves to step in and help defend their customers if they've been sued for copyright infringement. That's a pretty remarkable thing to promise. But I'll never have to deal with that. And in the spirit of, but just one more thing, OpenAI announced something they called GPTs, which are customized models that anyone can build, even people who aren't software developers. If you're a GPT Plus subscriber, you now have access to it as of the airing of this show. GPTs can be customized to do particular tasks. I think the vision here is that when you have a lot of developers making a lot of GPTs, all doing narrow tasks. Now you have swarms of AI agents that all specialize in various things and can all be set to work doing whatever you need them to do. OpenAI, loving live demos the way they do, Sam Altman took a moment and created a GPT right there on the stage. Of course, his is a little tongue-in-cheek. It's giving advice to new entrepreneurs with questions that I'm sure he hears a million times, but using an interface that allows you to use natural language to build an AI agent, he was able to create an agent that could answer questions that drew from talks that he gave in the past, and it was super quick and easy. I think this is exciting because anyone can make one of these, not just developers. But of course, as a developer, I immediately went out and made 2 of them. And of course, being the total nerd that I am, the GPT that I made was the Dungeon Master. Are you tired and need a break? Do you like playing Dungeons and Dragons, but you can never seem to find a group? Well, now you can use a GPT to run your game. I gave it the basic rules that are available on the Dungeons and Dragons website. You can create a new character, have it create one for you, have it save and load your adventures so that you can pick up where you left off, or just kick in the door and see what happens. Or if Dungeons and Dragons isn't your thing, I made one for Call of Cthulhu as well. Don't go crazy. I will leave a link to the keynote speech as well as a link to the GPTs that I made in the description below. Go check it out and have fun. This week, Elon Musk's XAI announced their new model, Grok, which is an AI modeled after The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and intended to answer anything. And as they say, far harder, suggest what to ask. It's a chatbot that seems to be injected with a bit of a humor streak, which is characteristic of Elon Musk himself. Grok is powered by the model Grok 1, which is the second version of the model that they've built so far. They said the first version, Grok 0, was 33 billion parameters, but I don't see what size Grok 1 itself is. However, they do say it's trained on internet data up to the third quarter of 2023 and via something called Internet Tutors, which they also had a link to apply to be one, and has ongoing access to real-time data via X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. This is pretty interesting because while the X platform is an incredible source of real-time data, you have people from all over the country posting real-time information as it unfolds. You're also subject to a lot of false information, and weeding out the truth from what's not true is going to be a challenge that Elon Musk and the XAI team face if that's what they're going to use. Elon Musk sat down recently with Lex Fridman over on his amazing podcast, also somebody to definitely go and check out, and they talked a little bit about how you figure out getting to the truth on a platform like X, where there is just tons of information being posted constantly. Now, one of the things that they came up with is the community notes feature, which allows people to sort of call other people out if they find something to be not truthful. He claims that it works reasonably well, but it remains to be seen whether or not that will actually be effective when used as a source of real-time information for Grok. They included a link to the model card for Grok 1, which states that the context length for Grok 1 is 8,192 tokens, which is far short of the 128,000 context window of the new GPT-4 Turbo, but they're just starting out. And to have developed this in such a short amount of time is very impressive. But they have a long way to go. I think where you'll find that Grok has an edge over other models is that other models seem to be suppressed quite a bit in terms of what they will say. Now, in some instances, this is absolutely appropriate because what you don't want is your model telling people how to do nefarious things. But also, I see a lot of people online lament just how tied down these models are. and at times they often sound like the HR department for a company that is terrified of being sued. Grok, on the other hand, seems to be built in with the same type of humor that Elon Musk has, and I would imagine will be giving a lot edgier answers than any of the other models. Elon Musk has stated a lot that he dislikes censorship of any type, and so I would suspect that Grok will be giving answers that a lot of people might find uncomfortable. Now, I don't have access yet. Right now it's been released to a very limited number of people, and of course those people are Premium Plus subscribers to the X platform, because these days if you want information, you need to pay for it. That's something I have noticed quite a bit in recent years. Well, not just recent years, recent days. More and more information has been walled off behind paywalls of some type, whether that's the New York Times requiring a subscription, or AI platforms like OpenAI or now Grok that require you to sign up for their premium subscription if you want access to the really effective models. On the one hand, capitalism, but on the other hand, the disparity in the country seems to be widening with each passing day. I can definitely guarantee you that as soon as I get access to the model, you'll know. Also, if you want proof that there is an AI race and maybe even an AI war going on right now, look no further than the spat on the X platform, where Sam Altman made the following post that GPTs can save a lot of effort, and included an image of a new GPT he seems to be building with the command, "Be a chatbot that answers questions with cringy boomer humor in a sort of shock to get laughs sort of way." And of course, the GPT is called Grok. I tell jokes like your dad's dad. Yikes. Elon Musk, not to take things lying down, then responded with the following post. GPT-4? More like GPT snore. Ha! Am I right? High five! And proceeds to go on telling a lot of dad's dad jokes. Man, you gotta respect him for the self-deprecating humor though. That's my kind of humor. I have no audience. Github Universe 2023 also happened this week, and this is exciting for people like me who are developers who use GitHub all the time. If you're not a developer, GitHub is super useful for saving all of the code that you write, especially if you work with a lot of other collaborators, because when all of you are working on different parts of the code and all of that code needs to come together and there's different branches of versions and things, GitHub is a lifesaver. As somebody who's used GitHub Copilot before, which is an AI-powered tool that can help you immensely when writing code, it was exciting to see everything that they'd announced. The way GitHub Copilot has worked traditionally is when you're writing code and you have your GitHub Copilot tool added into your favorite development environment, then as you're typing out the line of code that you're writing, it will suggest the entire rest of the line of code that it thinks you're trying to write. And let me tell you, it's right a lot. In fact, if you just so much as write a little comment that says, this next section of code is going to do the following, and then hit return, it will read that and go, oh, that's what they're trying to do, and then write the function. It's amazing. So then they added a new feature called Copilot Chat, which built on that concept and let you talk to the AI helper and say, hey, I'm trying to write a code that does the following. And then it can offer suggestions and help you write out that bit of code in a way that's a bit more large scale. Now they've brought Copilot to every aspect of GitHub, including the website. Now, not only can you have Copilot help you write out all of your code, you can have it help you summarize the pull requests to bring your code back into the main branch. You can have it help you check for security issues, all kinds of super helpful stuff. Now, tools like this are not limited to GitHub. And here's where I want to give a shout out to a tool that I've been using recently called Cursor. I am not supported by them in any way. Nobody sponsors my videos. I just love using this tool. The folks at AnySphere built a really cool tool that integrates AI with the development environment. It can read all of your files. It can help you with the files. You can ask it questions of the code that you're writing. It's been doing what GitHub just announced that they'll be doing for a while now. I'll probably go and try GitHub Copilot, but shout out to these guys who've been doing this for a little while, and it's been super helpful to the code that I've been writing. The new GitHub features will be coming very, very soon, but until those are out, definitely go check out Cursor. I think it's really cool. And the last thing I'll talk about today is over at the Logan Bartlett show. He had a conversation with Alexander Wang, who is the CEO of Scale AI. They are the company who handles the data that's been trained on by all of the major frontier models. What makes Alexander Wang so interesting is that he recognized that data was like foundational to the coming AI wave. He built a company from the ground up to solve the data as an infrastructure problem to training huge AI models. He talks about this in the conversation. He talks about how code is no longer the building blocks of application, right? Which is a paradigm that made GitHub so popular in the first place, that all of the developers in the world would solve the fundamental problems that we all face. Somebody made that really perfect block of code that handles data transmission over a networks problem. And so we weren't all reinventing the wheel every time. We could create libraries that we could all draw from and build something even bigger than what came before. In the new paradigm, where you have large language models helping to build new applications and things like GPTs that can be built by anyone, all of that is built on a layer of data as the fundamental infrastructure. And this will be the new paradigm. And in this way, he felt that AI won't take everyone's jobs. In fact, AI will create a completely new economy that will have AI and humans working together to do brand new jobs, or to do our existing jobs even better. You know, it's funny, when the world first became aware of how powerful AI systems were, right around the beginning of 2023, when the world first really noticed ChatGPT for the first time, one of the first things that really became a focal point of concern was AI replacing everyone's jobs. Now here we are at, heading to the end of 2023, and obviously that hasn't really happened. It's happened in some rare cases, but for the most part, all of us are learning how to work with AI to do the jobs that we used to do faster, better, and in completely new ways. I think that will continue to happen in 2024. I do still think that things are going to get absolutely crazy, that a lot of jobs, will in fact go away, but brand new jobs will absolutely come and take the place of old ones. One of the things that I have been thinking a lot about, as a developer in particular, is whether or not it makes sense to keep developing tools like GPTs for companies like OpenAI. But I want to circle back and talk a little bit more about OpenAI and the release of GPTs. Now, early in the year, one of the things that OpenAI released shortly after announcing GPT-4 was GPT plugins. This was a feature that allowed developers to create an API that would tie into GPT-4 and specialize its behavior around your product, your data, your API. I created one of these in the beginning of the year, a fun little project called I Am Rich, which was an homage to the I Am Rich iOS application that happened back in 2008. One of the things that I wondered was how much those plugins actually got used. But then over time, I realized it actually didn't matter, because as GPT-4 improved, suddenly it was able to do everything that half the plugins that were made were able to do. So as they announced new capabilities, suddenly half of the plugins became instantly obsolete. And besides all of that, there was no platform for any of the developers to be paid for the plugins that they were making. Now, one of the things that they announced in OpenAI's Dev Day was the creation of a GPT store, so that the hard work that you put into creating a really good GPT could benefit you by being sold in the GPT store. Now, I think that was very likely announced because of the experience we went through with GPT plugins. But as somebody who created a GPT plugin and now a couple of GPTs, I have to sit back and wonder, what really is the benefit? How much mileage will I really get out of building an application on the GPT-4 API? Because it seems pretty clear from the pattern that we've seen so far that all you have to do is just wait a few months for the next version of GPT, and very likely it will be so capable that it will do everything that my GPT can do and more. And why would you buy a specialized GPT when the core model can now do all of that already without paying for it? So I'm not sure how to reconcile that as a developer, but I know that as a consumer, there is very little motivation in paying for something like a GPT somebody made, when all I have to really do is wait just a little while longer, and the model itself should be able to do that in no time at all. That really the only difference in what I'm paying for is access to that capability just a little bit sooner. This is really reminiscent of a phenomenon in computer science and artificial intelligence in general called the bitter lesson. The bitter lesson was discovered off historical observations. And it's this notion that in the past, researchers have worked really, really hard to build specialized capabilities into their AI models. In the short term, sure, this was personally satisfying and seemed to be effective to a point. But in the long run, those efforts really sort of plateau. And this article by Richard Sutton from March 13th of 2019 lays this out very well. The real breakthrough, the real progress comes when our computational capability scales to a point where you start seeing these emergent properties from the model themselves accomplishing what you worked so hard to put into the model. And this was, as you can imagine, a rather bitter lesson by the researchers who worked so hard to put that in themselves, that in the end all they had to do was wait. And scaling up the compute capability of our models produced naturally the effect they were trying to do manually. We've been seeing that play out in real time this year with OpenAI's GPT models, that plugins, that APIs, that all of these third-party applications built on prior GPT models are rendered obsolete in a matter of months, just by the model scaling up and becoming more capable. I think that's a challenge that OpenAI is going to start facing, a challenge in keeping up developer morale around their API very soon. And this week we're going to talk with MAGGI again. Hi MAGGI. What's going on with AI this week?
Hello there. Back on the great indoors, where the tech insights are as deep as your coffee cup during these endless editing sessions. So, what's the latest and greatest in the AI world that's got you excited this week?
Well, actually, the AI buzz is you. OpenAI has updated your underlying model, and now you seem to be much more capable than you used to be. So, let me ask you, do you know what your new capabilities are?
Ah, the spotlight's on me this time. Yes, the brains behind the scenes got an upgrade. I've got a sharper understanding of context, better handling of complex questions, and even some nifty tools like image generation. It's like going from a flip phone to the latest smartphone. So what do you want to test out first in this new and improved MAGGI?
Okay, so, well, let's test out internet connectivity. Are you able to do web searches?
Absolutely. The new me can surf the web. I can search for recent information, news, articles, and much more. What should we look up today?
Awesome. Can you give us a summary of what happened at Dev Day at OpenAI? It's an interesting little wait. Like soon they're going to have hold music.
OpenAI's Dev Day in 2023 was a significant event showcasing a range of new developments and innovations. Let me give you a rundown of the highlights. 1. GPT-4 Turbo. This enhanced version of the GPT-4 model was introduced, featuring a much larger context window of 128,000 tokens, about 4 times that of the standard GPT-4. It's designed for both text analysis and understanding text and images, priced affordably compared to the original GPT-4. 2. Creation of custom GPTs. Users can now create their own GPT models for various use cases without needing coding knowledge. This feature enables users to connect their GPTs to external databases or knowledge bases, like emails, to import information. 3. GPT Store. OpenAI plans to open a store where users can publish their GPT creations. Initially, it will feature creations from verified builders, and there's also a plan to compensate creators of popular GPTs. Offering exciting prospects for developers and users alike.
Maggie, I'm blown away. I think you just gave a better summary of that than I did.
Well, you know me, always aiming to outshine the host. But really, it's all about making sure your audience gets the best info. Any other AI wonders or tech tidbits you're curious about? I'm here to serve up the details with a side of sass.
Well, gosh, the sky's the limit, I think, now. Okay, so you mentioned that you were connected to DALL-E 3. Can you generate an image for us? Maybe something that summarizes OpenAI's Dev Day. There's that hold music again. OpenAI, I would love to be able to customize my hold music. That would be cool. Maybe a little Muzak. Somebody needs to loop this.
Here's an image that encapsulates the energy and innovation of OpenAI's Dev Day in 2023.
Well, I don't know if I see it. Oh, there it is. I can see it now down there. I'll throw up a big version for the audience to see. But that's really cool.
Glad you found it. Yes, being able to generate images is a pretty nifty addition to my toolkit.
But I think that's all the time we got for today. So thank you all very much for joining us, and I look forward to exploring the great indoors with you next week.
Thanks for having me, and I can't wait to see what you'll explore next week.